Welcome back everybody, my name's Nick930, and this past week there's been some rumors going around about Ubisoft announcing a brand new entry to the popular stealth action franchise Splinter Cell sometime in 2018. Splinter Cell has been a long-time favorite of mine, and it's seen a bit of an evolution over the course of the past 10 years. Some of the changes have been good, while some others could be taken away from the core experience I've come to expect. So for this video, I wanted to share the 10 things I want to see in the next Splinter Cell. Number 10, the SC-20K. The SC-20K is Sam Fisher's signature assault rifle. It's a sort of modified version of the Bullpup F2000 assault rifle, with a silencer, specialized scope, and an underbarrel grenade launcher that fires specialized munitions like airfoil rounds, sticky shockers, and sticky cameras that can be attached to any surface and controlled remotely. The weapon appeared in the first 4 Splinter Cell games along with its ability to launch gadgets, and was an awesome unique signature weapon for Sam Fisher. But once we got around to Splinter Cell Conviction, the entire direction of the franchise was shifted, and the F2000 was nowhere to be seen. There was the F3000, which looked similar, but it only functioned as an assault rifle, and Sam was forced to simply throw gadgets by hand. Splinter Cell Blacklist removed the weapon altogether, as Sam now has a tactical crossbow that can fire most of the same gadgets. Number 9. Stealth Options. Splinter Cell is first and foremost a stealth game. The goal in each game has emphasized staying unseen while getting from point A to point B. However, in every game in the franchise, there's a few levels that take Sam and the player out of their comfort zone and put them into direct combat situations with enemies, which can feel clumsy with the game designed so strongly around stealth mechanics. Splinter Cell Conviction and Blacklist both have a stronger focus on utilizing cover for combat, which is better, but it still just doesn't feel right for the franchise. I'd like the next game in the franchise to focus entirely on stealth, always giving a player to avoid confrontation altogether. I loved how in Splinter Cell Chaos Theory you can always find a way to stealth through the game without enemies seeing you, even when it seemed impossible. For example, in the Panama Bank level, there's an invisible tripwire in the vault door that most players will likely trigger without knowing. However, if you pay very close attention, you can detect this laser with thermal goggles, and you can disable the transmitter to avoid setting the guards on alarm. It's a smart feature and something I'd love to see included in every mission of the new game. Number 8. A living world. One thing I loved about the original Splinter Cell games is how deep every level felt. Each level featured several guards having conversations about random things that help make the world feel more alive. In Chaos Theory, there's a space mission that is consistently referenced in most levels, and you get an idea of what's happening in the world outside of the mission, giving the levels a more realistic aesthetic. Old Splinter Cell games were filled with computers that players could interact with, that would contain emails, passwords for locked doors, and even audio files. Radios would be playing in some areas that you could use as a distraction, and almost every guard had something to say if you tried to grab them and interrogate them, often giving you valuable information like where extra ammo was located, or how to get past a secure area. I want the environments to feel more believable like the old games. Number 7. Intricate level design. This kind of ties in with the last thing, but is focused more on the playable area itself. I want the levels to be more open-ended and feel more like a sandbox. I loved how levels like Panama Bank stepped away from the basic linear design and gave us a much more open-ended approach. You start at the front door and had several options for infiltration, with multiple routes to complete your objective. Sure, the end goal was the same either way, with you getting into the vault underground and then needing to exfiltrate from the front, but being able to experiment and try different approaches made the level more replayable and fun. Levels in the new Splinter Cell Blacklist are far too linear and offer very little room for exploration. You can either walk straight into the room with the lights on, or jump out the window and climb around some conveniently placed handholds. Blacklist gave the impression of being open-ended when it really wasn't. Number 6. Michael Ironside. This is a big one. A lot of people were upset with Blacklist because Ubisoft didn't get Michael Ironside to reprise his role as Sam Fisher. The new actor did an okay job with it, but it just wasn't Sam. It was a poor design choice to have a younger actor play Sam Fisher, but retain the same time frame in the game itself. All of a sudden, we have a 30-year-old guy talking to his 20-year-old daughter, and it just feels off. I hope that with the new Splinter Cell, they either get Michael Ironside back or just drop Sam Fisher altogether and give us a brand new character. Number 5. Emphasis on shadows. One of the coolest parts about Splinter Cell when it first premiered was its graphical design and how much it showcased Ubisoft's ability with shadow rendering. Before this game, very few games knew how to utilize shadows well. In fact, I still haven't played very many games today that use shadows to this degree. In the old Splinter Cells, shadows were an art form. You could tell each shadow cast was done for the sake of showing off some beautiful projections, and it also helped set up the atmosphere and gameplay too. Being able to shoot out lights and create new paths was a staple of the franchise that feels lost in the newer games. Sure, it's still present in Conviction and Blacklist, but it just feels more gimmicky than a necessity. I hope the next Splinter Cell goes back to having actual gradients of darkness that guards will be able to detect Sam at, rather than just having a binary design like Double Agent and onwards, where you're either hidden or you're spotted. I also wouldn't mind having a sound meter again, but maybe I'm just asking for too much. Number 4, Spies vs. Mercs. This game mode was one of my absolute favorites in the original games, and the concept is still pretty unique even by today's standards. You have a team of spies that are controlled in third-person mode against a team of mercenaries that play in first-person like a standard shooter. Splinter Cell Blacklist brought this mode back, which was awesome, but it was also very shallow in comparison to the original modes in Pandora Tomorrow and Chaos Theory. Spies were given guns and incredibly overpowered abilities that allowed them to simply run up and press a button to kill a player instantly, and mercenaries were given obnoxious drones that could fly around and detonate to kill a spy instantly. It was designed to be more welcoming to a casual audience, and even the classic mode felt completely off pace. I hope they bring back the old style Spy vs. Mercenaries with larger maps, slower pace, and an emphasis on stealth rather than action. After the success of Rainbow Six Siege, I'd be surprised if Ubisoft didn't try to make another even more addicting multiplayer game, and Spies vs. Mercs, if done right, could be huge. Number 3, Cooperative Missions. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory introduced players to a unique cooperative campaign experience, separate from both the multiplayer and the single player. It had its own campaign missions designed specifically to be tackled by 2 spies simultaneously, with unique moves, and it had the same great design of the single player. This co-op has persisted through Splinter Cell Double Agent on PS2, Splinter Cell Conviction, and even Blacklist, and they've all worked excellently. Blacklist is actually one of my favorite co-op experiences because it has a ton of unique levels to play with your friends that you can use to help unlock new gadgets and weapons. I just didn't like how short and simple the levels were. I would like a more open-ended level design to co-op missions, much like the newer Hitman game is designed. Single player is one thing, but co-op missions should be designed for high replayability, so that you'll want to replay them with different friends and to get a different experience every time. And in that regard, I feel like this franchise has failed to do that with every entry, even Chaos Theory. Number 2, more night missions. One trend I've been noticing with Splinter Cell ever since Double Agent is the push to more daytime missions. Blacklist is made up almost entirely of daytime missions, and they're just not as much fun as sneaking around inside office buildings, shutting the lights off, and sneaking past enemies. I want the next Splinter Cell to focus almost entirely on unique nighttime settings and locations, so that we can actually utilize light to the greatest degree. Once the sun's out, you limit the game to just moving from cover to cover whenever a guard turns around, and it becomes less Splinter Cell and more every other stealth game. And finally, number 1, Sam's old abilities. After 6 games, Sam Fisher has lost a lot of his abilities, some of which are iconic to the Splinter Cell franchise. And one move in particular is the most iconic, and I can't believe it's been removed, the split jump. The split jump was only utilized in certain narrow hallways throughout the first 4 games and allowed you to hide unseen with your legs on either wall so that the enemy could walk underneath. It's such an awesome move and has been taken away completely from the franchise. I also would love a return of the lock-picking mechanic, something that we've seen in a lot of games now like Fallout, Skyrim, and even Thief. Also, they could tone down the amount of gadgets Sam has access to. In Splinter Cell Blacklist, Sam has an obscene amount of tools at his disposal that make every level a breeze to get through once you've completed grinding and unlocking things through that skill tree progression. Sleeping grenades, sleeping mines, sleeping darts, shock darts, EMPs, it's ridiculous. I think scaling back these gadgets would make levels more interesting and force players to utilize the environment to bypass enemies, rather than relying on a drone that could put enemies to sleep remotely. So those are just a few things that I'd like to see in the next Splinter Cell. What do you guys think? What features do you want to see in the new Splinter Cell? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more content posted every week.